Hello and welcome to PSGL Vegas, and yeah, this race is going to be spicy. But nevertheless, we are here in qualifying, of course, in Q1 with our first set of brand new soft compound tyres, and this track is so difficult to nail. The first sector, you already had this a bit of an RNG curve where you have to really hook your car around it and use the bottom of the car to rotate over the top of the curbing. And then here again, the same, over this curb again, and you really just have to hook up the curb usage once more again. But that curbing is pretty consistent, to be honest, actually. But certainly where it becomes the most difficult curbing on the whole track, and maybe even on the whole game, is this inside curbstone here that you really have to attack. And you can see the bollard is huge, so you don't really want to be hitting that if you can avoid it. If you're lucky, someone else will take it out for you, and then you can use even more of the inside curbing, as you're going to see during the rest of the qualifying and the racing as it unfolds. But coming down to a very large braking zone, breaking the 100-meter board, I like to commit to the curb on the inside. Some people like to drive around it. I like just to drive over the curb, to be honest. That's just my style. I like to have a bit more consistency with that curbing, but across the line, and we are going to go P5. What puts us through into Q2, so we're here on our first set of brand new tyres, once again hooking up that curb on the inside pretty well and doing a 6-4-2 first sector split, hitting the brakes, letting the car rotate. It's been pretty okay so far, not really on the limit of those curbings, and if you don't get right to the white line, then the bottom of the car can bottom out on the curbing and cause you understeer, and of course cost you a lot of lap time. As you're going to see right now, an example of how not to take this inside curbing though, we commit to the inside and it can just bounce you off and hit into the outside wall. So, not ideal. That lap put us P11, so now we have to go for a final run here in Q2. The pressure is on, and you have to get this right with the corner cutting, the curbs, everything, the white lines, the braking zones. This has to be spot on in this lap to go through into Q3 with such a competitive field. Turn 1, a little wiggle as we get back to the traction through turn 2. Full throttle, open up the DRS on the overtake button as well to get more momentum out of the apex. Spot my braking zone, 100-meter board, top left corner of the screen, down into 4th gear. The rotation isn't ideal. We actually just grazed the outside wall and we lost time in the first sector split. So now we're going to have to pick up the momentum, pick up the speed, and that's not ideal. That's pretty okay for the right-hander. How is the left-hander going to be? That was pretty okay as well. So, not perfect, not bad, but not great at the same time as we come up to the oh-so-critical corner here. The left-hander that we made the mistake on last lap. Hit the brakes, down into 3rd. Little caution on the entry, but you can see we hook up the exit so much better, and we're multiple temps up now on the steering wheel at the bottom of your screen. This is where you can have a cup of tea, a coffee, a biscuit, a cookie, a pizza, a kebab. I like kebabs. I have a kebab on this straight. And now you can see the 100-meter board now getting the car slowed down. Rotation was pretty good, and now back to the overtake button for the remainder of the start-finish line bar. There's a 0.0 to go top of the session. Where are we going to be? What lap time are we going to do? Through the left hand and minimize distance, and it's P10. Whoa. You hear me say, whoa, because that was close. And I was being pretty conservative in that lap because I was very confident I could go through, so I wasn't taking massive risks with the white lines. So yeah, that was a bit too much close for comfort, but as we finish our first run here in Q3, again, minimize the distance, and we do. 0.3, and puts us provisionally P4 on the grid, so the pace is looking very solid, and we just need to hook it up for one more lap here in qualifying and to see what we can do. Taking you on a full lap guide here now. When the curb starts on the right hand side, hit the brake, down to 4th gear, let the car rotate, be careful back to the power, just squeeze the throttle back to 100% power. Through the right hander, the car's going to scrub off a lot of speed with the friction of the tyres and now go to the middle of the track just to avoid a bump, and then braking at the 100-meter board on the left-hand side, down into 4th gear, let the car rotate through. I avoided the inside curve that time, but still picked up phenomenal traction on the exit of 5.26 per second split. Now hitting the brake as much in a straight line as possible, committing to these inside curbings. I actually locked the rear a little bit on the entry, so it wasn't perfect, it wasn't ideal, and it wasn't really what I needed. So now we're actually down on our steering wheel split, now marginally up as we gain a little bit of time down this little straight. Now hit the brake underneath the bridge, and now down to 3rd gear, commit to the inside curbing. That was pretty good, to be honest. That was pretty nice over the inside curbing, and now we do a 0.58 middle sector split. And getting into the session, my objective was to do a 0.1, and that would really be a satisfying lap time for me, and we are on for that objective. Coming down the back straight, 100-meter board, hit the brake as hard as possible, and now into 3rd gear. Nice rotation on the inside curbing, back on the power, and now we've done all we can do. Overtake button is enabled. Just pull the gears and try to gain as much momentum, as much RPM as possible through the left-hander. What are we going to do? It's a 1.90, what puts us P6 on the grid. So we met our objective with our lap time, and we are in a nice grid position here for this race today. Starting on the medium compound tyres, well, it's quite aggressive, to be honest, but we need to be aggressive around this track to try and make up those places and get into a very nice position by the end of the race on the strategy. You can see being quite conservative, and now we can look down the inside of Istvan Pukki now to the outside, but we kind of back out of that just to make sure we don't get squeezed against the wall, because I saw that Tom and Istvan were side by side, but we was able to carry the momentum and go around the outside of Tom Manley, down the inside of Istvan Pukki, and now we have to make sure that we utilize these medium compound tyres to make up as much ground, as much positions, and as much opportunity on these opening laps as possible before these tyres start to degrade and fall away from me, as other people's hard compound tyres will thus become better and better and better comparing to us as the stint goes on. The reason we started on the medium compound tyres is, to be honest, we expected more people to go to the medium tyres at the start and try to aim for some undercuts. As you see the bollard, see you later. Yeah, we're expecting more people to start on the mediums, and doing this gives us a track position and tries to avoid the absolute carnage in the middle of the pack on this race. You can see Otis up ahead flashing. We go down the inside, so we've been able to go from P6 to P3 on the opening lap of this race so far. Get it slowed down, get it rotated, back on the power, along for the job there, and that is sound as a pound as we go up into P3 on this race so far. Ismail Fassi up ahead, Barry Borman leading the race at the moment. You see we do temporarily a purple fastest sector in the 3rd sector as well, but now DRS is enabled on lap 2, and we're going to be going past Ismail Fassi on the straight, and now going to attempt to get as well Bari as well, but he closes off his battery, so that makes our life very easy, and we're able to make a double overtake going from P6 to P1 in the first 2 laps of this race alone. And now you can see our tyres will start to degrade a little bit, and this is how defenseless you are when other people have the DRS. You can see Bari, Ismail goes past, Otis Lawrence almost goes past us in the braking zone as well, but we're going to be falling down into P3, but that's okay. This is part of my strategy, not to overuse my battery, not to overuse my tyres in these opening laps of the race, and to be honest, it's so irrelevant where you are in the opening laps of this race in this game, because it's so much about the slipstream, the DRS, that if you just manage to race in these opening laps, you could be putting yourself in a good position anyway, especially considering we're on the opposite strategy, as now Istvan Pukki goes up the inside of us. You can see we don't really fight it, we don't use our battery because we just know it would be silly to. As I was saying, because we're on the medium compound tyres, what actually matters is to be leading with the medium compound runners rather than fighting the hard compound runners right now, as it's just going to overly hurt our race, our battery usage and our efficiency to be doing that. Now on lap 8, if you look at the minimap on the left hand side of your screen, you can see that some of the people have already gone from the medium compound tyres to the hard compound tyres, so now it is definitely time to start boxing and filter into that train so we can start using the DRS slipstream and try to be as efficient as possible to gain as much race time as possible comparing to the opposite strategy runners. pretty much the whole of the grid. Coming into the pit lane, so easy to speed here, and you can see we almost got speeding in the pit lane penalty just by 5 kilometers an hour. We was able to slow it down. Strapping on a set of hard compound tires, you can see more people follow us into the box.
Let's try to get these guys in our DRS.
You can hear me say, let's try to get these guys in our DRS. Because basically I want to work together. I want to work together. I think it's more efficient than just trying to run a race by myself. So I really want as many people in my DRS who are quick, efficient, smart in the racing as well, so we can try and gain as much time. You can see the tyres are not warmed up, and a big snap of oversteer in the middle of that corner. You can see now Tamas is on warm tyres because he came in the lap before us, and now Josh is on the same lap deck of tyres as us as well. You can see now it's just all about using the slipstream and working together in these situations, and just trying to gain as much race time from the opposite strategy runners as possible, as we're going to have a few laps of better tyres and better grip as we go through that. We see now we skip on to lap 13, and it was just us swapping on the DRS, so I don't want to waste your time. I want to make the highlights as entertaining as possible, not just extending it out for ad revenue, just showing pointless DRS overtakes. But with that being said, now we are here on lap 14, and people are starting to box onto their medium compound tyres, and it's really key, really important to be the lead car from your strategy when other people catch up from the opposite strategy, to open up as many opportunities for later in the race as possible. You can see me and Josh are doing a really efficient job of swapping with each other right now, and Otis Lawrence is the first person on the medium compound tyres to arrive to us, so he's going to be in a very good position to try and make up places, but he's not going to go for the move down this straight, and I'm able to follow in Josh's slipstream here as we're starting lap 16. More people are boxing, and the train is getting longer and longer and longer. Otis Lawrence now is going to be taking over the hypothetical race lead. I say hypothetical because there's still people yet to box, but once people do box, Otis will be in the race lead and will be in P2, Josh in P3 as well. So now we're in a very healthy position, a very nice position behind Otis Lawrence, as his medium compound tyres will be worse than us by the time we get to the end of the race. Down into turn 1, and you can see more people boxing. There's 3 wide behind, and you can see Ismail Fassi just sends it up the inside. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, this is going to be an interesting race. I knew it was going to be spicy at that point. You can see Ismail Fassi up behind, and there's no point for me to fight him because he's on so much pressure on medium compound tyres that it's better just to save my battery, save my tyres, and leave better opportunity for me to get that position back later in the stint. Lap 19 now, you can see Josh is up behind us. We actually have to go defensive, and Josh sends it around the outside. Beautiful move around the outside, but now we're going to try and hang it around the outside of him in return, but not quite enough grip and momentum around the outside line, and that allows Isfan Pukki up the inside as well, and now we are down into P5, but we really have to get this position back on Josh by the end of this lap to leave ourselves in a good position going forward and try to maximize our possibilities. You can see Isfan Pukki now up into P3, and Josh looking around the outside, Pukki down the inside, as well as Ismail Fassi almost letting Otis Lawrence break the DRS ahead. You can see me just being defensive against Freddie Rasmussen behind us, being smart, covering the inside lines and not leaving him the opportunity to make a sneaky overtake in a decisive point of the track. I didn't know Josh's battery at this point, but I did have a feeling it would be a bit lower than us because we were coming onto the straight with 95%, so it would be pretty difficult considering the battling that he had to do in the previous laps to have the same amount of battery as us. So going onto the straight, I knew I had a good opportunity to try and re-overtake that position and re-become the lead hard runner in this race. You can see flashes now, and we're able to go up the inside at top speed, 358 kilometers per hour, hitting the brakes, and now yeah, we're back into P4 in a good race position as well. Lap 21, you can see Freddie Rasmussen got past Josh Idaru, and now he is all over the back of us. And there's not really much I could do to fight this at this point, because if I use my battery to fight Freddie too much, I will end up vulnerable to Josh and Tamas and the rest of the train behind us. So it was better to me not to use that battery on the inside, try to hang the car here, but ultimately decide to back out of that, because if we ran side by side through here, either it's going to be a crash, or we're going to end up losing so much momentum, we'll lose the track position anyway. So now starting here on lap 22, P5, Josh tries to go down the inside, but we cover that off and now he tried to go around the outside again, but we learned from our mistakes and able to cover that off with much better momentum going into the right-hander. We leave the space up the inside just to make sure there isn't contact, but we are able to hang the car around the outside, but side by side down the straight, and happen to use so much of our battery down the inside when covering the inside line as Josh goes around the outside, and there's a bit of tyre contact at the apex. I don't think that was my fault either, but he's lost a lot of positions and momentum because of that. Now, lap 22, this race is starting to heat up. I have quite low battery considering starting the straight. Starting the straight on 60% can mean that you'll be quite vulnerable towards the end of the straight as well, especially into turn 1, as you have such long straights here. It's really difficult to recharge that battery if you do use it unnecessarily for an overtake mode. And you can see at the end of the straight, 44%, even though I didn't even touch overtake button once. Now, this, I have to be honest, I'm preempting a little bit. This was completely my mistake. As you're going to see now, we're going to be fighting with Nicolas Longuet down into turn 1, and I was super hyper fixated on just the cars behind that I just did not check the car's head.
I'm so sorry. That was completely my fault.
So yeah, now coming through the chicane, and yeah, this is where my race is going to go south. I'm sort of preempting a little bit, but was completely my mistake what happened here. As you can see now, we're fighting with Nicolas Longuet, and I just misbraked into this corner, to be honest. I misjudged my braking point and hit the side of Freddie Rasmussen. You can see immediately I'm saying sorry, that was my fault, because it was my fault, completely. I hold my hands up, and yeah, completely was my fault in that situation. I just misjudged my braking point. Was too focused on the battle around me and not focused enough on the car's ahead. Okay. So yeah, my mistake, I own it. Luckily, Freddie did not have his race compromised by that situation. So yeah. Hurt my race more than it hurt Freddie's, so at least that's a good thing, because I don't want it to hinder Freddie's race when it's just my mistake. But nevertheless, now you can see we are in P19, last of the people running on track. But from how long the train is on this track, on this race, on this game in general, we're already all over the back of the cars ahead, but there's going to be carnage here. There's absolute carnage, and we tried to keep our throttle pinned around the outside, but there's like 7 cars spinning into the wall, and we go from P19 to P14, and we were so close to perfection there. We were so close, because I tried to keep my throttle pinned around the outside, but just didn't work, and that would have been one amazing TikTok clip if I was able to overtake like 6-7 cars by keeping the throttle pin up against the wall, but didn't quite work out. Nevertheless, yeah, was a positive qualifying, a very positive race, apart from one mistake I made. So it was like 35 good decisions, 1 bad decision with the breaker zone, of course, and end up hitting Freddie. But to be honest, that's just sometimes how it goes, and that's a life lesson. It's a learning opportunity as well to become better and learn ahead of the future races. That's what I'm going to do. Once again, apologies to Freddie. As you will see, I was able to finish P4 in that race. But yeah, my mistake, I own it. And yeah, we move forward and become even stronger from it. So everyone, thank you so much for watching. And yeah, P14 in this race, not ideal. But that doesn't really reflect the picture or the pace that we had. Like I said, just from the one mistake we did. But yeah, we move, we learn, we grow. Thank you everyone for watching. And I will catch you in the next video. Grazie, ciao, ciao. Bye bye.